Hello, my friend. We are halfway through the week, which means it is hump day. And hopefully your first few days of the week, you created some momentum because that's so important to be able to carry you to Friday. And then, of course, you have another weekend to kind of regain parity before getting back into the work again. Just to summarize, over the past 6 weeks, we've been covering the effectiveness model. Now, the effectiveness model foundation is vision. And that vision is that compelling purpose, or as Stephen Kotler and Peter Diamandis would say, that massively transformative purpose. And then the next level of the foundation is mission. And mission is how we will carry out the vision. And then, of course, the next level up is values. We talked a lot about values and the impact that values and the importance they carry in business. And then over the past couple weeks, we've been talking about roles, and the enemy being role ambiguity and the prescription role clarity. And now we're going to introduce you to the final piece of the foundation of the effectiveness model, and that's goals. Now we're going to do a drill down on goals, not just topical, not just say, oh, do SMART goals, specific, measurable. No, more in depth than that, so that you have a full understanding, right? I mean, you can understand the acronym SMART as specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based. But what does that really mean? So we're going to kind of demystify that model and talk about goals in more detail. So whether the goals are big G goals, what we call organizational goals, team goals, or your individual goals, they are all approached in the same basic way. First, goal alignment, making sure that our goals that we set are in alignment with the organization's vision and mission, because if they're not in concert with those basic elements, we're moving in a direction different than the rest of the organization. So we need to make sure that we're creating momentum in the proper direction, right? So goal alignment is very, very important. Organizational goals are aligned with a vision. Team goals are often aligned with organizational goals. Individual goals are aligned with the team's goals, and the individual goals are also aligned to your role, right? So now that we're coming out of roles, our goals have to be able to support the role that we're in. They support some other goal that belongs to somebody else, not real effective. The next is people involvement, especially in the big G area where we're talking about organizational goals or even team goals. We've got to make sure that we get people involved in the development of those goals, because involvement creates ownership. When people are involved and they have the opportunity to contribute, have a say, discuss, then they'll own the goal. And that's super important, because if people don't feel ownership to a goal, then they're not going to take it on as a priority, or not as high a priority as they need to. Okay, so talked about that. And by the way, goal planning should not be something that you just skim through. It should be something that you spend a good amount of time on. These are critical. They're very, very important. And you should have regular milestone meetings to cover, okay, where are we at in comparison to the goal? So that brings me to the next one. In creating a goal statement, right? We have that old SMART goal thing. Well, I'm not going to give that up, because it's a very good outline of how a goal should be created. So, right, first is specific. Specific means, what do we expect to accomplish? What is the expected outcome? Ultimately, what objective are we expecting to achieve? And then checking that to make sure that it is congruent with our vision and our mission, right? So, very, very important. Be specific in terms of what to expect to accomplish. But then the next one comes in. How do we measure that? It can't be a, I don't know. No, you've got to be very specific in terms of how you would measure the expected outcome in detail. So that can't be brushed over easily. There needs to be a discussion either between you and your leader, the team together, or even at the organizational level, if you're C-level, CEO and your team. These are things that need to be discussed with great detail and clarity. Because if you brush through it, I guarantee you what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure later. So very, very important. The next is they have to be achievable. So once you've got this goal and you've identified how it can be measured, you can talk about, well, what are some of the actions that we can take in order to achieve that goal? And if you have a goal, there's nothing more disempowering, especially at the individual and team level, than having a goal that's impossible to meet. Okay, by tomorrow, I want you to be able to jump from the ground to the top of this 3-story building. Get to work. People will see the impossibility of that request. And what will they do? If you're lucky, they just become apathetic or make excuses. So you have to be willing to have people raise the concerns, because what they're doing is they're troubleshooting the plan. So if something doesn't seem achievable, allow them to say, I'm not sure I'm seeing how we're supposed to accomplish this. Can you give me some ideas? And that doesn't mean that they're stupid, and don't make them feel stupid if somebody asks a question like that. It's a valid question. These are the people who are going to go out and take action to achieve the goal. So it's in our best interest to give them all the information that we can, all the authority that we can, to ensure that they're successful. Now, the next is relevant. Is it relevant, A, to that person's role that they be doing that? Do they own that goal? Is it within the scope of their responsibilities and accountabilities? Number one. Number two, and actually probably the bigger one, is it congruent with the team's objectives? And are the team objectives congruent with the organizational objectives, right? It all cascades down with more and more action as you go through the process. So relevant is very important. If somebody's doing something that's not relevant to their job, it's not relevant to the team, it's not relevant to the organization, holy cow, you're going to be in trouble. So relevancy is uber important. The next one is it time bound? Now, you should approach goal setting very much like project management. You should take a look at the time and other resources required in order to achieve all the action steps to reaching that objective. And so when you set a deadline, or when this goal is due, then maybe you need to reverse engineer all the activities that it's going to take to get there, and say, well, and I got called in to a very big name that you would know. They were a year and a half behind schedule on a major project. It was an amusement park. And they never reversed engineered their project management. I went into the project management, worked my way back. I said, wow, based on this, you should have started almost 3 years ago. with all the activities that you have going on to achieve this end result. And I know that you have this due date because you want to open this new park on your anniversary. So what do? In that case, there's very few options. Either you increase the amount of resources to get it done, renegotiate how much of that park you want done because you can't have it all, or you push the end date out, right? These are things that need to be taken into consideration when you do your strategic plan or your goal setting session with your team, or your own session of sitting down prior to getting a stamp of approval by your leader, getting all this down. What is it going to take? How much time is it going to take? What resources do I have? How much authority will I need? Right? And then you create milestones. This is the first quarter of activity in getting that done. Second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, so that you can have check-in meetings with your leadership and say, hey, this is where we're at. We're ahead of schedule. We're behind schedule. However, if you get to the point where you believe, right, that you may not hit that deadline, you have got to go to your leadership and say, time out, hold on, hold the phone, as they used to say. Hold the phone. I've got some concerns and we need to talk about this so that we can either increase the resources, renegotiate the deliverable, or move the end date out, right? I used to tell my people, look, as long as you come to me before the sky is falling, we can work through it together. We can find out what's going on and we'll figure it out. But if you wait until the end date to tell me it's not going to happen, that's a bad conversation, a very bad conversation, especially if I've taken that information and have committed to my team at the next level. So keep that in mind. The SMART acronym is good, but you've really got to give it the credence of each one of those stages: the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Then it will serve you. But if you brush through it, you throw some goals down, you do a high five to the wind and hope for the best, don't count on the best happening. So remember, goals need to fit the roles, regardless of what level you may be at setting those goals. Whether it's organizational, team, or individual, you need to do some milestone check-in meetings. And of course, if anything threatens your ability to meet that time-bound date, then you don't have to have a milestone meeting. You just go to your leadership and say, hey, this has come up. We need you in our next team meeting to help us troubleshoot how we can get around this obstacle, because it may take their level of authority to be able to accomplish that. And again, make sure that you provide support throughout the process. Check in with people. How are you doing? What's working? What's not working? Who needs help? And make it a rule that asking for help is totally acceptable. Look, we're all in this together. We're all trying to achieve the bigger picture, the vision and the mission. And any activity that moves us closer to that is important activity. So let people know, hey, look, if you need assistance, please, by all means, speak up. And we'll do whatever we can to help you forward the progress of your goals. The next thing I want to talk about is celebrating accomplishments and the milestones. Look, we need to get excited about the movement forward, the momentum. And if we celebrate these things, it rejuvenates people's energy to move forward. Now, you may have a lot of different ways that you celebrate accomplishments. I work with one organization, and I know it sounds silly, but the people love this. They get this really nice, like military type looking medal. It pins on their shirt. It's got a brass bar with a blue royal blue ribbon and a medal on it. And they make a big ceremony out of it. And of course, food is involved because that's always, a nice thing to have as you celebrate. But yeah, they make it kind of like a formal, come up to the front, the leader or maybe even the CEO comes and pins that on. And they don't have to be huge milestones, but people want to be acknowledged for things that are significant. Look, if we give away, some type of, oh, here's a ticket for a free lunch because, you cleaned your desk off, goals that have low meaning and they get acknowledged, then they carry no meaning. So we've got to be careful about how we acknowledge people, and make sure that they are comfortable with that acknowledgement. Because I was with another client where they brought an individual up at a huge all hands meeting, and it was a big organization. This person was so embarrassed that it was more of a punishment than an award, a feeling of being acknowledged. Look, today, in order to be agile, we have to adapt to constant changing priorities. It's a reality. Look, if it takes a daily 15-minute meeting to discuss these things, or even it takes up to an hour, look, it's so important that everybody's on the same page. When we do these meetings and we form people, we're telling them that they matter and they're important. And we should be saying that in these meetings. Look, I know this meeting's inconvenient, but you are important to us. There is not a single person on this team that's expendable. And we need to make sure that you have the latest information so that you're able to do your job, at a level of acceptable performance or outstanding performance, however you want to word it, right? Very, very important. And then again, just like roles, I'm a big believer in everybody posting their goals. Put them out there, because when we tell somebody we're going to accomplish certain things, when we show them our plan, our teammates could help us troubleshoot that plan. They could say, oh, hey, you might have missed a step here, or can I ask you something about, your goal statement or your goal plan? That is helpful. We should not take that as a criticism. We should be taking that as assistance and support by our teammates. So that's very, very important. But keep it in plain sight, because that's a commitment we're making. And if we keep commitments to ourselves and we miss the commitments, no big deal. That's kind of, I hate to use the C word, but that's not brave. It's a little bit cowardly. Being brave is putting those goals out for everyone to see and saying, I am committed to making this happen. And we should have a team that is also supportive and committed to making those things happen. Now, bear in mind, priorities are a big deal, because sometimes our A priority can be the Z priority of other people on our team, but we need them as resources. So we'll need to get leadership involved and say, hey, look, this piece of the pie that I'm contributing, where's the priority in that? Because we're running into priority conflict, and priority conflict is very common part of goal conflict, right? It's married almost to goal conflict. Other priorities can seep in, but what happens when my due date's coming up and the resources that I needed to accomplish that are unavailable because they have pressing, priorities that they have to attend to? That's one of those situations where you go, whoa, hold the phone, hold the phone. Hey, I need to get this done. We agreed on this, leader. We agreed on this, team, but I'm not getting the resources that I need. We've got to figure this out. So those are the foundations. Once again, the foundations of the effectiveness model: vision. And is it compelling, inspiring, and bigger than we are as an organization, right? That massively transformative purpose that we serve, the impact that we will have on the world, fundamentally changing humanity for the better. I know it sounds lofty, but people will join that tribe. And then after the vision, we've got our mission. It's how we will accomplish this, not to the point of the detail of the steps or actions we will take, but the behavior that we expect to see, and just pretty much the how. So if the vision is the why, the mission is the what and the how, and then we go into values, which we've talked a lot about, how important values are and how dangerous values conflict can be. And then roles, making sure people have clear roles and solid goals. And that's the foundation. That's it for the effectiveness model. And I've given you some insights in how to facilitate, especially the role clarification process. We have other tools for each of those foundations that if you comment down below and say, I'm interested in those details, I'll make sure that I get them out to you. If you can be more specific, that would be helpful. But anyway, that's it for After the Coffee this week. You have just a couple more days to conquer the world and enjoy your weekend. So until then, my friend, I will see you on Monday for Monday Morning Cup of Joe. And as always, lead well.